Let us pray. John said, "This is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. Lord, may we know you more and more through your word. Amen." The reading from the Old Testament this morning is taken from Genesis, chapter 45, verses 1 to 20. Joseph makes himself known. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Make everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, and one of you, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will not be plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve you for a remnant on earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, 'This is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, you and your children and your grandchildren, your flocks and herds and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father about the honor accorded me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly." Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept. And Benjamin embraced him, weeping, and he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterwards his brothers talked with him. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brothers had come, Pharaoh and all his officials were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, do this. Load your animals and return to the land of Canaan, and bring your father and your families back to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land." You are also directed to tell them, "Do this. Take some carts from Egypt for your children and your wives, and get your father and come. Never mind about your belongings, because the best of all Egypt will be yours."
Good morning, congregation. Our second reading this morning comes from the book of Luke. Luke chapter 6. I'll read from verses 27 to 42. Love your enemies. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you, and pray for those who spitefully use you. To him who strikes you on the one cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who asks of you, and from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back. And just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. But if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive back, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much back. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, hoping for nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the unthankful and evil. Therefore, be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. And he spoke a parable to them. Can the blind lead the blind? Will they not both fall into the ditch? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is perfectly trained will be like his teacher. And why do you look at the stick in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, Brother, let me remove the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the plank that is in your eye? Hypocrite. First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you see clearly to remove the speck that is in your brother's eye. Thank you.
Testing, testing. All right. Good morning. How are you? It's really good to see you. As I say, every time I feel like, feeling young, I need to come to Durban North, and that's exactly how I'm feeling this morning. I don't know about those who are seated in the nice, comfortable chair there. Oh, my friend, I'm sure that's very uncomfortable. Well, why don't we greet one another, look into each other's eye, and say, you look younger than the last time. And those who are seated on those comfortable, just blow a kiss to them. All right, let's do that. Let's stand, greet at least 2 or 3 people, not just one, 2 or 3 people. You can join him. Sorry. And you may be seated. All right, if you don't believe what I really say here, it's very true. Some of you are really looking like teenagers, all right? And, it's really... Why are you laughing, Tim? I know your team yesterday. We need to talk about that after the service, all right? Actually, I was looking forward this morning to coming here.
This is the house of God. We don't talk rugby here.
All right. There we are. For the first time. Thank you. For the first time. That's very true. Tim is a really blue, supporter. They was really humbling. Yeah, shame. Yeah. Oh, shame. We need, actually, if the one who needs kisses, it's Tim this morning. All right. Please be kind to Tim. Be nice to him, Michelle. Once again, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this series that Michelle, and the congregation you are embarking on. Which, fascinates me because traditionally, the church has been going through this these moments, for so long. And sometimes we may sit there and just know this is what is coming next, this is what's coming next year, this is what's coming next year. But then to see the creativity that is going around, Lent and these other traditional pillars that we have in the church is very encouraging. And that's what excites me when I come across ministers like Michelle who can be able to build some moment around some traditional pillars of our Christian faith and doctrine. It's very, very exciting. So I'm excited to be here this morning. I bring greetings to you from Tiba and Eddie and Victor, who are no longer young. Eddie's looking on top of our head now. He's very much into rugby. They could have been here this morning, but unfortunately, I had a friend of mine who was visiting us a few days ago, and he had to catch a 6 o'clock flight this morning, to Joburg and then going to Zimbabwe. That's where he lives. His son is together with Eddie at Marisbeck College. So it's those flights that I don't like, but I love my friend so much that I had to wake up 4 o'clock this morning. And then I calculated, driving to the airport, driving back to Hillcrest, no way. I'll just drive by and, make a stop over there. And then we connected with Michelle, said, we are at the church, you can come over. So it's very, very good. My boys are really doing well. And for your credit or for your information, I've now started loving cricket. And I think, some people are clapping. You need to do that definitely. Because, it's a game that, every word or every title that is used, for me was not making sense. I mean, the wicket, I used to call it wicked, the bat, all those, it never made sense to me. So until, my sons, Eddie and Victor, started talking to me very seriously. They said, Daddy, you embarrass us. Says, we love you, but you really embarrass us. Every time you talk about cricket, it's such an embarrassing. Please stop it. But the best thing that we can do for you is to coach you into cricket. So I've been coached. I've been been an umpire. You call them umpire. All right. I've played as an umpire. The only thing I've refused is to do those scoring thing on there. That's boring. That's really boring stuff. So I really love. I love Eddie now. I like, Asher Hamler, and I'm not getting into sleep anymore for cricket. So, sorry. I want to apologize for those who felt, I offended you for commenting bad comments, on cricket. But, I can only watch it, for 1 hour. After that, I go to sleep. Like a slap. That's it. So that I can be able to tell you. So, so my boys are really doing very well. I was visiting Eddie the other day, he's in the boarding establishment. And it's very scary. I've told my son, next time I visit you, please warn me. Because, they have this dorm where there are 6 boys, teenager boys, between 15 and 16 sharing, the same room. And those who have boys, at that age, what it's a disaster. Actually, I nearly fainted when I went into that room. So next time I've told Eddie, every time I visit you, make sure that, I come with an emergency, ambulance, just in case I pass out. Because the smell and the sight there is just a nightmare. The only order you can see in that room is when you look into the ceiling. That's the only order. Everything is in just different places. I've told Tiva, don't dare go that. Otherwise, your high blood pressure will just go high. So anyway, so we're having fun. It's that time of the year. I'm sure those with teenagers, you sympathize with me. Those who have crossed that, congratulations, well done for not killing your teenager. All right. Because sometimes we really feel tempted, Reverend Michelle, we feel tempted just to transport them to heaven quicker, We're talking about a subject that is very touchy. Do we have that slide at the back? Do we have a slide over there? Yeah, we'll just put it there. Jesus spoke in parables. I've started speaking in pictures. So parables and pictures, that's how Jesus in his tradition, he painted pictures, using parables. And in the days that we are living, I think pictures matter a lot. So I've started speaking in pictures. So if you see some pictures, just bear with me. And we'll be just going, step by step. I'm just, showing you what. So the power of forgiveness. I mean, this is a very touchy subject. I was very touched by, Michelle's pastoral prayer here. I don't know if you are following. It's a subject that, we've glossed over. And it's a subject that we've talked about. It has been part of us, ever since, humanity fell from grace. The issue of forgiveness. So on this Lent series that we are following, I thought I should bring this issue of, I believe in the power of forgiveness. What does this say to us as believers and as people, living on earth? We've read two passages of scriptures, and I want to use these two stories, or what Jesus is saying here, which is very radical in our listening. And it was very radical in those days, to his listeners. What does that mean to us today? But I want to start, with a very, very beautiful story. It's a story, I call it beautiful because it's me reading it. But if it was me living that story, I don't think it was a beautiful story. It's the story of Joseph. It's one of the fascinating stories that you can look at different kinds of angles, and you don't stop questioning what was really happening. He is an innocent young child, born, in the family of Jacob, being raised among, 11 other, brothers, and as a young little teenager, very overzealous. Unfortunately, the father couldn't hide that he was the most loved. He gave him, that nice looking coat, which again, just, alienated him from his elder brothers. And because of, he was so young and so naive, he started talking to his brothers, about all the dreams that he was having. One time he told them a dream that never made sense, but it meant something, to them and his father. He told them that, I saw the sun bowing down, I saw the stars bow, I saw the moon, all these kind of things. And they began to interpret, what is this boy trying to say here? Is he meaning that one day we'll bow to him? And that just, inked their minds. It irritated them, and they became very resentful, towards Joseph. And I think we know the story. We've read the story. The story tells us that, there came a time they couldn't just take on these dreams, of Joseph. And they started planning something evil against this young man. They wanted to get rid of him. Literally getting rid. Let's kill him. So that he's out of the picture. We don't hear from him, anymore. That's it. And a day came when they had an opportunity not to do that. Fortunately, one of the brothers said, let's not do that. They are the slave traders. Let's sell him out. So that, he's out of the picture. He's completely out of picture, to us. And that's what they did. Long story short, they sold him, to these slave traders. And you can imagine if you put yourself in the shoes of this little boy. Something is happening to him that is beyond his control. He cannot control the circumstances of what is happening, around him. So he's sold by his own brothers. He's stripped, thrown in the well, taken out of the well, and then he's sold, into slavery. And this little boy, had those dreams, the dreams that he had, from God, which he believed, being an Orthodox, traditional Jewish, boy, he believed Yahweh was giving me these dreams. But is this what is going to end? I put myself, in the shoes, of Joseph, and I ask a lot of questions. There are so many questions, around this little boy. Well, he's sold into slavery. He goes into Egypt, and the hand of the Lord is still upon Joseph. That's what amazing. That in spite of what is happening, God is still involved in the story of this little man. And God blesses him in Egypt to a point where, his master, Potiphar, appoints him to be in charge of everything. Everything. The Bible says, apart from the food that, Potiphar was eating. Everything, was in charge of everything. Anyway, something happens, the wife of Potiphar, just creates a story around this young man. And this young man finds himself into trouble. He gets into prison. He gets into prison. He hasn't done anything wrong. And he knows in the heart of hearts, I've done nothing wrong. I didn't wrong my brothers. They just hated me and sold me. I didn't wrong Potiphar and his wife. She just created a story which is not true. And Potiphar believed and threw me into prison. Just put yourself in the shoes of this young man. It's like the world is collapsing around his feet. Something is just coming to a close. And I think if I were that time I would say, no, God, where are you? What's happening here? But Joseph continues to believe in God. And the Bible tells us the hand of the Lord was still upon Joseph, even in prison. He blesses him in such a way that the chief warden provides keys to Joseph, and he becomes a person in charge of all the prisoners. And it was because of that interaction that there were these two prisoners who came to him and said, "We are troubled by these two big dreams. Are very troubling dreams." And they tell him, the dreams. But because God had gifted him to interpret the dreams, Joseph makes the interpretation. And he tells this other one, when you are blessed, when you are set free from prison, when Potiphar, when Pharaoh, promotes you, please remember me. And this gentleman, excitedly said, "I'll remember you. Definitely, I can't forget you." And the Bible tells us the time came that the true dreams came to pass. One of those men was promoted by Pharaoh. He became the cupbearer. I mean, being a cupbearer at that time, was something very close to a second powerful person, in the land. And the Bible tells us that gentleman who made the promises to Joseph forgot. So for 2-3 years, he just forgets. And Joseph is in prison. And I'm sure he's hearing how this gentleman is doing. And I'm sure at this time, I just want you to feel the story. I want you to feel the story. And to see the picture here. I'm sure Joseph is saying, "Is this all what I can receive from a man I helped interpret the dream? From a man I helped, from despairing. From a man that I gave hope that your life will still continue in spite of what is happening here. He forgets about me." Well, long story short, as heaven does, it works in silence. There may be some of you thinking, what is happening? There's no noise, there's nothing happening. Heaven works in quiet ways. Heaven works in silence. Sometimes we don't see what God is up to. We don't see what God is planning. We may be deep in circumstances and situations that are very hard to understand. And what we are left with are not answers but questions. We're asking why? But whatever it is, the hand of the Lord is involved in our lives. It may not be visible like Joseph, but God was still involved. And long story short, Joseph is taken out of prison because that warden, after 2-3 years, remembers when Pharaoh was saying, "I'm troubled by this dream." And then the pin drops. Wait a minute, what have I done? I made a promise to a young man who helped me to have hope beyond prison. And he remembers. And he tells Pharaoh, "There's a young man. He's rotting in prison. I think he's going to help you." And the story connects. Pharaoh's, dream is interpreted and Joseph is promoted into a high office in the land. Look at how the story is going. Look at how the bands and the cave balls that are being thrown at Joseph. Look at how at a moment Joseph would have just given up. And he would have justifiably so to give up. But the story continues. And Joseph becomes in charge. But now, the story doesn't end there. Because this is where the test of the moment is. Now, Joseph, you are in charge. Now, Joseph, you are powerful. There is starvation happening in the land where Joseph had left because he was sold by his brothers. His brothers, his fathers are in trouble. There's big famine, big drought. And now they had to come to Egypt to look for food. Who is in charge? Joseph is in charge. And they show up. And Joseph just realized, oh my God, if there was a day I was not looking forward to, it is this day. To come face to face with those that inflicted pain on my life. But even Joseph, looking back at his story and seeing how God has moved him, from stage to stage to stage, he realizes, this was not just my brothers. There was a hand behind this. The fact that I'm here now connects to everything that has happened in my life. The fact that I'm here now connects to everything that has happened in my life. The fact that I'm here now connects to everything that has happened in my life. That's what we forget. That is what we forget. The fact that I'm here now, the fact that I have this opportunity, the fact that there is this door open, connects to everything that has happened in my life. That's where forgiveness starts. That's where forgiveness starts. The fact that I can be forgiven, the fact that God has given me grace, the fact that I can be in a position to extend forgiveness. That connects everything that has happened in my life. And that includes pain. That includes hate. That includes moments of discomfort. The fact that I've moved through this, everything connects what has happened in my life. And Joseph meets his brothers for the first time. And I think you know the story. He does the hide and seek. He plays around on their minds. Poor them. They are so traumatized. And without recognizing this powerful man actually is our brother that we saw. He sends them back. I can feel the moment. I can feel the moment that it was very hard, for Joseph to let go. But being a man who feared God, the story tells us, at the end, he couldn't just hold it anymore. And he reviews himself. And they're powerful words. I want you to take some time to read this passage that we've read. Because that's the culmination of the whole story of Joseph. Where it says, what you meant for evil, God meant it for good. It's not you. There is a bigger picture to this. Friends, that's where for me forgiveness starts. There is a bigger picture to this. If all we can go to that place where we stop seeing, not pretending, but we stop seeing what's happening now and say there's a bigger picture to this. There are lessons to learn. There is growth to take place, in this, what is happening to my life. Then, friends, we'll be in a position better than where we are at the moment. Brothers show up, very vulnerable. But Joseph used that vulnerability as an opportunity, to forgive. So we're talking about forgiveness. I think for me, that picture I like it. Forgiveness is freedom. When you forgive, you set yourself free. When you forgive, you set yourself free. You set yourself free. Because sometimes we think, when we forgive, we just set, those who have hate us or those who are our enemies, we set ourselves free. Something happens when you extend forgiveness. There's so much power in forgiveness. But also having said that, when you forgive, you set others free. Because as long as you hold unforgiveness in your heart, they still remain captive. But don't forget, first and foremost, you are a captive yourself. I like what Mandela says. He says, no, I had a choice. As I was walking outside the gates of my prison gates, where I've been in prison for more than 27 years, I had a choice. Whether to continue with my bitterness and live with unforgiveness. But then I realized, if I were to do so, I'll still be in prison, in spite of being outside. If I were to do so, to remain in bitterness, I'll still be in prison in spite of being outside. That's very powerful. When you forgive, you set yourself free. When you forgive, you set others free. When you forgive, you become stronger than before. From a humanistic point of view, we feel forgiveness is one of the weak points in life. No. It takes broad shoulders to forgive. It takes a big heart to forgive. It's not easy to forgive, especially when those that have hurt you, you can be able to look into their face. It's very hard. So when somebody forgives, they're coming from a strong point. They're not coming from a weak point. But humanness teaches us, when you forgive, you're showing weakness. No, friend, when you forgive, you're showing how powerful you are. You're showing how powerful. It may not look like, it may not feel like at that moment. But what you attain afterwards is a position of power. When you forgive, you affirm God's words in your life. Forgive so that you can be forgiven. As Jesus says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass us. When you forgive, you open up yourself to a lot new of possibilities in your life. Friends, unforgiveness closes possibilities. Because when we are living in unforgiveness, all what we see are those pictures of hurt and suffering and moments of sorrow and loneliness. But when we let go and we forgive, you know what we're doing? We're opening doors to begin to see their possibilities. Listen to me. That does not mean pretend the hurt is not there. That does not mean pretend you've not been affected. No. That's a completely different story together. But what it means, it opens new doors for you to see new pictures in your life. When you forgive, you shut the door of bitterness, resentment, and anger. You shut it, behind you. I like this other picture. No. The previous one. Choosing to forgive unlocks the cell to the prison inside your heart. It sets you free. It sets you free. That's very powerful. Okay? Let's move to the other picture. I like that. Forgive others, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. Friends, it's taking a completely different perspective on forgiveness. Because what we feel is that when we forgive others, actually, it's them. No. It's for my sake. If I don't forgive, it's me who is living in this house with a lot of commotion. But when I forgive, actually, you know what? There's so much peace in my heart. And I can't live without that peace. So it really helps me to live, in peace. How about this other picture? I like that. When you forgive, you in no way change the past, but you sure do change the future. You may not do anything about what has happened, because what it is what it is. What has happened has happened. It's part of history. But what you can do, you begin to change the future. You begin to change the future. You begin to change the course of events, in your life when you do forgive. We'll hold on the next picture and just leave it there. I want you to think about this picture. I like it. I love it. Please. I love it. The little kitten has the choice to say, no, thank you. No, thank you. What is this up to? Why flowers today? And I know maybe this, Michelle, happened on just the past Valentine. Somebody brought that. And you don't know the pain they went through. Why are you looking down? Look at me. You don't know the pain they went through just to buy those flowers and say, I'm sorry. But you look the other way. That cat has a choice to look the other way. But look at the picture. I know there's a lot that's going in the head of that cat. What is he up to tonight? Is he buying me? That's where forgiveness takes place, friends. That's where forgiveness takes place. Let me come back very quickly to Jesus' words on forgiveness, which are very, very powerful. We just keep it there. Jesus, I have followed the sayings of Jesus. Actually, Michelle, one day we should do a series on just the radical sayings of Jesus. You don't realize how radical his sayings were in his context. Jesus said things where, even now when I read it, I say, oh my God, how would the popular culture, look at these words? But he said it with such precise, and he knew exactly what he was saying. I mean, when you read about that scripture, the Old Testament, it was said, tit for tat, When somebody hammers you there, you don't give them this. You go for them again. Okay? But Jesus is telling that story. He says, no. When he hits you there, say, can you do it again? Why are you smiling? Look at you. I can see. So you must be kidding him or not me. Well, this is how radical it was. This was how radical it was. Jesus says, yes, you have, you hear him saying, by starting saying, you have heard it written. You have heard it being said. But now I say to you, when somebody hammers you here, give them to this. What is he really saying? When he's saying, do not judge, because in that context, judgment was the usual thing. Anybody who, they must be judged there and then on what they have done. Forgiveness was a portion of weakness. Only Yahweh could forgive. That's why, they had issues with Jesus when he said, your sins have been forgiven. Pick up your mat and go. You can't say that. They said, you can't say that. Because he deserves to be there. Who knows? He sinned, so he deserves to rot there. He deserves to die there. You can't say you should pick up his mat and go. That was the context. Only God can do that. But Jesus said, no. To your hearing, I want to tell you, his sins have been forgiven. So, don't waste time here. Pick up your mat and go. Radical say. We should really create a series. I'm fascinated about this. What is Jesus saying here? In very brief, Jesus is saying actually, act in the best interest of your enemies. In other words, begin to shift the perspective. Instead of saying, what is this in for me? Begin to say, how can I help this person to begin to think about this? He is not saying pretend nothing has not happened. Or what he's saying that change their perspective. And how do you change by their perspective? By acting different to what is expected. Friends, that is where Christianity is. We act differently to what is expected. What is expected in our culture, what is expected in the secular world, because these are the normal expectations. Somebody does this to you, you do them to that. If anything, you double it or you triple it so that they feel the pain. But our Christian faith says, no, do something very unexpected. Because they were expecting this. When you do something unexpected, you begin to raise questions in their mind and say, wait a minute. I thought you hurt me. I thought you react this way. I thought he or she, will resent me, but they're embracing me. How come? Like somebody says, I am going to heaven, not because I fear hell. Because I know I deserve hell for what I do. I'm going to heaven because I'm broken by this love. I think we're talking about love next week. I'm broken by this love. How I, a sinner, a terrible person, can I be forgiven when I deserve the punishment? That's what changes people's lives. It's not the wrath of God. Of course, there's that other side of God. It is the love of God. The love that can love me in spite of my sinfulness. The forgiveness of God. Jesus, what he's saying, when you forgive, you leave room for God. Because he's gracious and will deal with the situation differently. Because from a human point of view, there is a decisive way of dealing with situations. But God has many ways. Because we don't see, what is coming. God sees already. And therefore you'll be gracious. And you'll be able to give time, to those people. When you forgive, Jesus is saying, you give time to understand the person and the situation. But also when you forgive, you let go. You let go. The power of forgiveness is that, it just releases you. It just releases you, friends. I have one more picture and then we'll end here. If we really want to love, we must learn how to forgive. That was Mother Teresa. Love and forgiveness go together. You cannot talk about love. Next week we talk about love. I believe in love. But these things not go together. This is why you're having these wonderful series. So what am I saying in summary, friends? I'm saying there's power in forgiveness. Are you one of those who has really been holding grudges? And you know what? You can be justified for your feelings. You can be justified for whatever you've been going through. But the question is, what has that done to you? Or can I put it in the present? What is that doing to you? What is that? You may think, I'm in control because you know what? I don't want to be controlled. No. You are being controlled. The fact that you can't let go, there is something controlling you. When you release it, friends, actually that's when you gain control. Because the peace that comes in you, the strength that comes in you is just amazing. So what am I saying to you? Stop kidding yourself. Let go. This could be in a relationship. Could be between, wives and husbands, husband and wife. This could be, between, children and parents. This could be, in our family circles. This could be in our working situations. Wherever it is. What is troubling your heart? What grudges do you have? What bitterness do you have? I know. You may say, Amon, you don't understand. I don't need to understand. I don't need to understand. All what I'm telling you and all what I'm encouraging you as a friend. Remember, I'm your friend. As a friend, I want to walk into that box that you've closed yourself in and you've put, thou shalt not come here. Unfortunately, it's too late. Michelle invited me into your box. I'm right there. Oh, how scary. Look at that lady. She said, this is very scary. It is scary. I'm right there. I'm right there. But I'm right there not to haunt you. I'm right there not to frighten. I'm right there as your friend. Say, well, it can be done. It can be done. You have hands on the key. And you have had these hands for many years on the key. All what it needs is turn the key. Just open the door and let the fresh air come. I hope this helps you, friends. And that may mean you reaching out. That may mean you talking about it. Things that you don't want to talk about to somebody you can confide in. That may mean you beginning to open a new chapter. And what an amazing thing it will do to you. I promise you, what an amazing thing it will do to you. And when you don't understand, I understand. I've been hurt in my life before by people I really trusted. Very hurt deeply. But you know where the release came? When I say, they're as human as myself. I've let go. What a freedom it gives you. What a freedom it gives you. I really thank you for this moment. Michelle, I have a lot of regards, for Michelle. Michelle is finishing her moderator. I haven't got permission to say this. She's finishing her moderatorship, this year. And you may not realize as a congregation what Michelle deals with, as a chair of moderator in the Presbyterian. There's so many issues. Because we deal with human beings. And human beings have their own fracas, they have their own issues and all that. And Michelle has to moderate that. And she's done a great job. Sometimes I look and say, whoo, Michelle. So really, the love that she has for the church. And I want you to continue praying for Michelle. Because, this church, has life. This is the church of Jesus Christ. The people who paint this church, different, it's us human beings. But Jesus meant this church, to flourish and to go, into places. So Michelle has done a great job. And thank you for those of you who have been praying for her. And as she finishes, I really admire the strength. But it comes from a strength of somebody who knows what God has done for her. And she can be able to reach out, to other people. Look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you. Thank you.